welcome. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living right here in Fullerton, California. My name is Tomoko Rosas and I'm a practitioner at the Spiritual Center. Please join me in stating our purpose statement. We are a loving spiritual community empowering all to live healthy and successful lives through practicing the principles of science of mind. Before we get started, I have some announcements. We do have our slogan for 2022. Woo-hoo! Our light shines through in 2022. Yes, and it was submitted by no other than our Reverend Bill. Good one. And today is our annual membership meeting and potluck. So if you're a voting member, please stay, because we do need a quorum to make decisions and vote on for our budget and also our programs for 2022. And we're gearing up for our re-gifted gift raffle and calling out for donations of new and unused items. Info is in the program. Our new class, Science of Mind 102, The Nature of Effective Prayer, will be offered in February, and it will be starting shortly. We have the date issues, so we will be announcing that shortly. But if you would like some information, please sign up at the welcome table. Our visioning session for our new home, facilitated by Reverend Dr. Chris Collins, is scheduled for Saturday, February 5th. And it is open to everyone who loves our church. So please join us on that session. It's going to go from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. There'll be snacks and lunch provided. And also, this is a deep meditation session, so please come in comfortable attire. So that's it from me. I will pass it on to Sally.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Please join me now in invoking that living spirit right here in our midst, right here, right now. We know that the air we breathe is God, and we just relax in that. We celebrate together today the everlasting love of the universe. We are grateful for the blessings that we share today. I'm thankful for each one here and those of you who are sharing with us virtually. We appreciate our beautiful music from Tommy and are thankful for our faithful ushers. We are thankful for the members of our wise board of trustees and for our dedicated, prayerful practitioners. We're grateful for our little children and their teachers, and for all those who have planned and worked to make this annual meeting day a success. We bless those who prepared each dish for our potluck feast. We're so grateful for our pastor, Reverend Dr. Bill Salisbury, whose message today is From Broken to Beautiful, and it will touch our hearts and minds. I am so thankful to be here and sharing this gathering with all of you. I know this service is perfect, just as it must be, and so it is. Amen.
To be still, let God love me. I need to be still, let God love me. When this old world starts to push and shove me, and let God love me.
My reading today is titled Circle of Love. When Joey was 5 years old, his kindergarten teacher told the class to draw a picture of something that they loved. So Joey drew a picture of his family. Then he took his red crayon and drew a big red circle around the stick figures on his paper. Joey wanted to write a word at the top of the circle, so he got up from his chair and went up to the teacher. "Teacher," he said, "how do you spell?" But before he could finish his question, the teacher told him to go sit down. Stop disrupting the class. So he folded up his paper and put it in his pocket. When Joey got home from school that day, he remembered the drawing in his pocket and dug it out. He smoothed it out on the kitchen table, got a pencil from his backpack, and looked at that big red circle. Joey's mother was busy cooking supper, but Joey wanted to finish the picture before he showed it to her. "Hey, Mom, how do you spell?" "Hey, Joey, can't you see I'm busy? Why don't you go outside and play and don't slam the door?" Joey folded the drawing and stuck it back in his pocket. That evening, Joey dug the picture out of his pocket again. He looked at the big red circle and then ran into the kitchen to get a pencil. He wanted to finish the drawing before he showed it to his father. So Joey smoothed out all the wrinkles and laid the picture on the floor near his dad's big recliner. "Hey, Daddy, how do you spell?" "Joey, I'm reading the paper now. Can't you see I don't want to be bothered? Go outside and play and don't slam the door." So Joey folded the drawing and put it in his pocket. His mom found it the next morning when she was doing the laundry, and she threw it in the trash without ever opening it, along with a small rock, a piece of string, and 2 marbles. When Joey was 28 years old, when Joe was 28 years old, his daughter Annie drew a picture. It was a picture of her family. Joe laughed when 5-year-old Annie pointed to a squiggle stick figure and said, "That's you, Daddy." Annie laughed too. Joe looked at the big red circle his daughter had drawn around the stick figures, and he began to slowly trace the circle with his finger. "I'll be right back," Annie said as she jumped off her father's lap. When she came back, she had a pencil clutched in her small hand. Her father moved the drawing aside to make room on his lap for his small daughter. Annie positioned the pencil point near the top of that big red circle. "Daddy, how do you spell love?" she asked. Joe gathered the child in his arms and guided her small hand as he helped her form the letters. "Love is spelled T-I-M-E," he told her. Now, please join me in prayer. Just knowing and sensing that God is all there is, filling up this room with God. Every breath we take is God energy. Every move we make is God expressing as us. I am so grateful for all of the blessings of God, the blessings of time, and the blessings of love, which is another name for God. And so now I release these words into the law. Perfect healing, perfect love, perfect joy. Knowing it's done right now in the most perfect way. And so it is.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you're less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle, and how deeply you're connected to my soul? How could anyone ever tell you were nothing less than wonderful? How could anyone ever tell you you're less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your presence is so beautiful, and how deeply you're connected to my soul? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Bringing us the joy of music, bringing us the beauty and the harmony that goes with it, bringing us what we need on a Sunday morning. So good morning, I'm Reverend Bill Salisbury, as some of you know. So our overarching theme this month is New Beginnings, being January and all. And the title of today's talk is From Broken to Beautiful. Thank you. So, are we broken? Well, let's finish. Now that I started that, are we broken? No. Are we beautiful? Yes. Do we really have to go from one to the other? Only in our minds, when we have made that errant choice to listen to something or somebody or even ourselves suggest to us that we might not be as whole, perfect, and complete as we know down deep that we are. Previously on New Beginnings, remember we started the month with Reverend John Auden, who talked to us about things that we now do as a matter of course and recognize as a matter of course: involution, evolution, and revolution. And then we had Reverend Bruce, who reminded us that we have to get, for something to change, for us to become something, we have to get a clear idea of what we want. We have to make a clear decision to get that. And then we have to, like we talked about last week, we got to get rid of anything and everything that no longer serves us to further us along the way to our goal. And then after that, we have to act as if. And remember, acting as if has been co-opted, in a manner of speaking, by a large corporation, Nike. Just do it. Right? Acting as if is not really, it's not pretending, remember? It's just doing those things that we have decided after our clear examination that we need to do in order to become who we want to be. And as they say, you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. And thinking of that, if you're here for the meditation, Sally had mentioned one of our dear New Thought people, although he was a Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, passed away yesterday at the tender young age of 95. A lot of us haven't gotten there yet, but some have, and beyond. And he was a person who dedicated his very life to moving things that he saw as broken to being beautiful. Thich Nhat Hanh was a Vietnamese Buddhist priest. And he was one of the early people, remember that fiasco that was the Vietnam War, probably before some of our times. But he was a guy who stood up and said, you know what? We need to fix this because right now the way our country looks to me to be broken. But I know that this country is beautiful and that everybody within it is. And did he say, let's take up arms and fix this? No, because that's not the Buddhist way. Not to mention, we should have found out by now, 2,000 years into recorded history, that that doesn't work anyway. But he became the change he wanted to see in the world, and he modeled for so many others to become that same change. Not exactly like him, because that wasn't his way, but exactly in the manner that they needed to get in touch with their divinity and make this world look like they want it to look. How do we do that? I'm going to use a word that we've come to kind of have a little distaste for. And I think that's wrong also. I feel not wrong. I think that's in error. But the way we go from seemingly broken or not enough or different than or less than to whole, perfect, complete, and beautiful is by way of religion. Oh, there's that word. But I don't mean religion in the way it's been co-opted by so many in the mainstream and used and made in the image of their thoughts, their thinking, their wants, their needs, their desires, and used for power over or used for fear of or used for political purposes. I'm talking about religion in the original sense of the word. And it's really simple. Re. Does anybody not know what re means? Re means again, right? Redo, revisit, do again, visit again, reconsider, consider again. And in Latin, original Latin, it wasn't ligus, it was ligios. And that just meant connection. And typically it meant connection to that divine source, to that essence, to that God within each of us, to that life principle from which we come and what powers us forever. So we need to revisit the idea of religion and get back to our connection to that God who provides everything for us, everything we could possibly ever need or want. I'm going to move a little bit away from Buddhism right now. I'm going to talk about safe. I'm going to talk about Paramahansa Yogananda, as you recall, the founder of the Self-Realization Fellowship / Yogoda Satsanga Society, who has billions of followers probably around the world. And this little piece comes from somebody who knew Paramahansa Yogananda and relates this incident. He said a disciple, because that's what they call followers of somebody, a disciple who felt that he had failed in a difficult spiritual test was reviling himself. And the master being Paramahansa Yogananda, said, "Do not think of yourself as a sinner." Don't we sometimes do that? To do so is a desecration of the divine image within you. Why, oh why, identify yourself with your weaknesses? Instead, affirm the truth. I am a child of God. pray to him. Don't bog down on the word him, okay? Pray to God. Naughty or good, I am thine own. Reawaken my memory of thee, O Heavenly Father. Reawaken. Help me to recognize. Help me to recognize that divinity that is within me. Thich Nhat Hanh and Paramahansa Yogananda, along with others, Buddha, Jesus, are certainly considered to be enlightened beings. And we've talked about this before. Doesn't everybody want to be enlightened? Well, I got good news and I got bad news. Which do you want first? Oh, let's just take the bad news first. The bad news is that the enlightenment we're talking about has been covered up by us and others all of our lives. The good news is covered up. That means it was there to begin with. That came with us. That grace of God that we are always seeking, searching, looking for, and all of those words, by the way, intimate that it's something we don't have. But it is something we do have. And when we search and when we seek and when we find it right here where it's always been, right within us. And we don't have to do anything for it. It's inherent in us. It's innate in us. It's as natural as the wind blowing, as the sun shining, as the rain falling. Our enlightenment is natural because it's part of who we are. In fact, it's most of who we are. But we're people. We've managed to obfuscate a little bit. We've managed to cover it up. We've managed to take on those false identities and characteristics that people have told us we are and we have. And once we buy into that, what do we act as if? We act as if that's so. Oh, you're no good. You're no good. Heartbreaker. You're a liar. You're a cheat. Oh, that's a song Tommy could do. Well, once we start buying into that, we eventually become acting as if that's true. And come on, we're just humans. Our reality, in a small r, our reality is our perception of the world, isn't it? The world we see is a world that, in a sense, we're insisting on. Because if we were insistent on peace and joy and love and beauty and happiness and community, if we were insistent on that all the time, guess what we would have? Those things and those things only. We would have what we're talking about. I want to get away from the East now and get to one of my personal favorites, Emma Curtis Hopkins. And if you've ever got an email from me, you've seen this quote. But to begin, she's talking about the demonstration of truth, capital T, and she says, mind will demonstrate as much truth as it has courage to stand by its affirmation. And let's just clear that up a little bit. Does it take courage to stand by an affirmation that's not true, but that's pounded on us all the time? No, it doesn't take courage for that. That's just a wearing down of our innate divinity. That's a wearing down of our recognition and awareness of the fact that we are made in the image and likeness of God, and that our purpose, our charge on this planet is to live accordingly. So it doesn't take any courage to slowly get, not beat down, but let's say covered up by those identities that the world casts on us, rightly or wrongly, mainly wrongly. And what takes the courage is saying, no, 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 no. I'm not buying into that. That's not who I am. Oh, sure. While I'm navigating this world, it's true. I'm a doctor, I'm an accountant, I'm a lawyer, I'm a gas station attendant. Whatever it is we are, sure. But that's not the essence of who we are. That's the way we get by in the world because, let's face it, we cannot live in an abstract theology. I mean, that's just not going to work. We can't be a pure idealist, although there are people who say that's the way of the world. Surprisingly, though, those same people that say that don't often step out in the middle of a busy intersection without at first waiting for the walk sign. But on the other hand, we can't go the opposite way too and say, oh, what we do here in this physical world, the way we navigate this planet, the way we negotiate our human existence is the only thing there is. No. Remember, we're on that continuum. We have both humanness in us and divinity in us. And at any given time, one of them is more likely to be beneficial to us in a situation than the other is. And when that's the case, that's what we should take it. But we can't make the mistake of thinking that it's the case always that we identify with those human characteristics and traits and attributes that are so readily assigned to us. Sometimes we just get carried away, huh? Let's get back to that quote, because here it is. He says, "The world will persist in exhibiting before you what you persist in affirming that the world is." So if we buy into this idea of brokenness or other than or not enough, if we buy into that, guess what? That's true. But if we persist in seeing the world from that platform of grace that we have been placed upon, that's what our world's going to look like. So I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but just ask yourself, which would you rather have? Would you rather have the feeling of insecurity, feeling of fear, and remember fear, the acronym, falseness, evidenced as real? Because if it's not speaking to that gem of God that is us, it's not true. You know, we say and we know that everything is consciousness. So we call God, spirit, life principle, we call it whatever we want, but we also understand whatever name we give it, that it is this infinite eternal consciousness, mind, if you will, from which all things come. And then we make a point of saying, and all things are made of God stuff, substance, mind. So if everything in existence has to come from that one consciousness, when we talk about using our mind, what is that mind? That mind that is ours to use, because it's not really ours to own, it is ours in that we are part of that all-encompassing eternal and infinite mind that is God, and that is undifferentiated in every regard. So if our mind is undifferentiated, and remember, we call ourselves humans or peoples or things or creatures or whatever, and that's great because, again, we got to use words to communicate. That is, we have to use words if we don't know our way around communicating by way of concepts and soul and heart. But we use these words. And yet we're not them. What we are is we are activities in the mind of God. And everything that we produce is an activity in our use of that mind of God. The reason that we all get to think and act and make and model differently is because God is an omnipotent presence, understands it wouldn't work if everything ever created was exactly the same as everything else. So we don't have to be automatons. We are those individual thoughts in that one mind that have manifest here for a very short period of time. You know, they say there's like several trillion cells that come together to make us, each of us. That's a lot of cells, by the way. But where did they come from? Here's where, people got laughed at some decades ago by talking about how we were made of stardust. Guess what? We were. But on the other hand, stardust is made of us. There's only one component. There's only one thing to be made of, and because we are, and we are brought to this beingness with conscience activity, we can then recreate however we feel. We can recreate things in our image, and that's why we say, if we don't like what's going on in our world, what do? Grab a new thought. Grow from broken to beautiful. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, I almost forgot. I got this cute little thing from, did everybody get one of these, little affirmation from Sally? From Susie, by way of Sally. Love surrounds me. There is peace in my world. Love has to surround me because that's all there is that's ever been to make anything or anybody out of. Anyway, back to Ernest Holmes. He says, we learn that when we get our own consciousness straightened out, things in our external world adjust themselves to meet our new and better inward awareness. So, here's the situation. Don't we all have questions? So many questions. We all have questions. Don't we want them all answered? And they come in a myriad of forms, right? Some are easy, some are hard. Some you jump right on, some you sit and you tangle with and wrestle with for a little while, and others you say, I got this. But the fact of the matter is, all those questions that we ask ourselves about this existence, if we just got one question right, if we got the who am I question right, the answers to all the other questions have already been taken care of. We've already answered every other question that could be asked. Because who am I leads us to the direct source of ourselves and all other beings. Is everybody else as great a being as I am? Yeah. I bet you somewhere in the back of our mind, something's going on there saying, well, so-and-so would be accept, so-and-so would be accept, this other person would be accept. There aren't any exceptions. Everybody we're ever going to meet has the same amount of divinity that we have. Now, you could say, well, okay, Bill, but they just don't use it as wisely as I do. probably is true. As long as we're thinking from my perspective, because really what am I saying? They don't use it the way I use mine. But there's only one way to effectively use our divinity and go from what could be viewed as less than, broken, or not enough, too beautiful, to whole, to perfect, and to complete. And that's actually also the only prayer we ever need say. God, thank you for becoming me. What would you have me do? And if everything we did, if every thought, every word, every activity that we ever performed was done from that pure, simple, divine grounding, how could there be anything but beauty in the world, and peace and harmony? The Thich Nhat Hanhs would have nothing to do. The Paramahansa Yoganandas, the Jesus Christ, the Buddha, they'd have nothing to do because we'd already be there. But let's just take on that persona. Aren't we going to take on identities? We do. I don't see any way of getting around it. Figure out a way to beat this human thing, let me know. We're going to take on identities, but we don't have to take on the identities that other people want to put on us. When all we have to do is know that our identity, our own identity, our one identity, is that identity in God. And when we align with that higher power, and we have reconnected with it, so when we have put ourselves in that religious state of mind, we're going to look and act and sound exactly like we want to be. It's at that point when we have become the change we want to see in the world. It's at that point that we do go from so-called broken to beautiful. I got one more thing from Paramahansa Yogananda that I want to cover. One of the disciples was faithful and prompt in performing whatever tasks were given him by the master. But for others, he would do nothing. By way of correction, the master said, "You should serve others as you serve me. Remember, God dwells in all. Don't neglect any opportunity for pleasing him." And again, sometimes we lose sight of that, especially in today's atmosphere, both religious and political and social. Isn't it easy to see divide? But let me just mention this. Anybody can see that. You want to be just anybody? Anybody can see problems. And if we start from the basis of a problem, there's no such thing as a solution. We have to start with the world we want to see and then back it to where it just runs over that problem that we could have seen had we thought that way, but we don't think that way. So I want to compare life to a high-rise building. Anybody ever seen or been in a high-rise building? Of course we have. But I want to just ask you, if your life was a high-rise building, why would you live in the basement? You can live in the basement or you can live in the penthouse. It's our choice. Why would I choose the basement? There's a little story that I'll end with that has a little something, maybe somehow tangentially related to this. I don't know, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. But it's about this little old couple. They've been married for, 62 years. had a delightful life. Everything seems to have been just really peachy for them. But alas and alack, as these physical vessels do give away from time to time, the poor old missus was laying on her deathbed, and she said to hubby, "You know, remember that shoebox up on the top shelf of the closet that I told you to never look in and never ask me about?" He says, "Yeah." She says, "Well, I think it's time. Go get it." So he goes and gets it, and she opens it up. And inside the shoebox, there's two beautifully embroidered doilies. Anybody know what a doily is? Two beautiful, handcrafted, painstakingly, lovingly made doilies. And there's a pile of cash. And a pile of cash, it looked like it had about, I don't know, $70,000, $80,000 in there. And he says, "Wow, what's going on with the doilies?" She says, "Well," she says, "you know, my grandmother, a very white person, said that if I want a beautiful marriage, at any time I get to thinking that it's heading in the direction of being broken or being less than, rather than say anything to you, I should just go sit by myself and knit, crochet, embroider a doily. And by the time I got done embroidering that doily, everything had settled back down in my mind and in my heart, and the world is nice again." And he's looking and he says, "Oh my God, 60 years of marriage. This woman's only ever had to sit down twice and make those doilies." He says, "That's so beautiful. But where'd all the money come from?" She said, "Oh, that's from selling the doilies." So, we don't have to do that. All we have to do is, let's do it right now. Let's just take a moment and go within, and let's just know that the essence of who I am, the essence of who you are, the essence of every being ever created is God. It's that life principle, it's that spirit. It's that thread that connects all, that runs through all, that can never be broken, can never be tampered with, can never be removed. And knowing that the grace of God is ours from birth, that all we ever have to do is to open to it, to recognize it, to remember it, to accept it into our awareness. There is no situation, no circumstance, no event that could lead us to thinking broken. Because that one life that courses through all of us, that life that is whole and perfect and complete, always and forever leads us in the direction of beautiful. And it's with this in mind and knowing this and with grateful heart for this that I say, "Thank you, God. Thank you, thank you." And I just release this word into that spiritual law, knowing that because I demand it, because I say it, because I know it and embody it, it is true. And I say, so it is. Amen. Ah, yes, so here we have arrived at that time of the service where it is our opportunity to share our abundance, to share that beauty that comes to us in the form of financial aid. We know that all of our good comes from that one source, God, and for this we are grateful. So for those who are not attending in person these days, we miss you, but thank you for your continued support online, through the website, by mail, auto tithe, by just stopping by during the week and visiting with Tomoko or another practitioner and chatting about the way life is going and how you're on the road to beautiful. Meanwhile, let's just know that we bless these gifts, these tithes, these offerings, knowing that they are given from the central core of who we are, which is God made manifest on this plane. We send them forward to do their good works in our spiritual community, in the community at large, and indeed in the world at large. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So it is.
my soul. In my life I've been searching for something, but you were my dream. You're perfect, you're golden, you're my light, my love. You're perfect, you're golden, you're my light, my love. If I'm sad or dark, shallow or in doubt, when I listen, I can hear the most beautiful music out of nowhere. You're perfect, you're golden, you're my light, my love. You're perfect, you're golden, you're my light, my love. La-di-da-di-da, 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 la-di-da-di-da. Oh, you're perfect, you're golden, you're light, your love. Oh, you're perfect, you're golden, you're my light, my love. You're perfect, golden, light, my love. You're perfect, golden, light, my love.
Wow, speaking of perfect golden light, that's our Tommy Cosentino. Come on. So, let's have everybody get up. And let's just know this together. Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
It's this thing called love.
It's this thing called love.
It's this thing called wholeness.
It's this thing called wholeness.
It's this thing called perfection.
It's this thing called perfection.
It's this thing called beauty.
It's this thing called beauty.
Beauty is what I am.
Beauty is what I am.
Thank you, God, in me for that.
Thank you, God, in me for that.